Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of You First. That's right, it's all about you, and you. I'm Shawanna Kennedy, and yes, I'm excited that you are here with me. Today, I'm excited because she is in the back. I have a therapist in the house. That's right. And just in case you're watching this for the very first time, I'm Shawanna Kennedy, the host of You First, where we're in a place, a safe space that's all about you. It's self care, mental well being, personal development, and empowerment, empowering you to make yourself a priority. That's right. So you can do the things that you have been called and designed to do. In this space, we have conversations with real people, hearing real stories about real life and what that looks like and what has been the holdup and has been holding them back from making themselves a priority. And along the journey, we bring in some experts from around the globe to then lean into the conversation about what that means when we don't make ourselves a priority, when we don't lean into self-care, when we don't lean in more into self-love and self-worth. And in this case, she's not a stranger to coming to self first to for being a part of this you first conversation. It's none other than Jackie Smith. She is a licensed professional counselor and someone that I have been able to know and have look, she's my one of my people that I've known for decades. And this young lady is no short of knowledge and information. She is currently serving as a professional, a licensed professional for the Phoenix Children's Hospital. And we're going to get into the conversation because today is a mighty conversation about the front line of pediatrics mental health. So if you have a child or you're an aunt, an uncle, someone, this is about, we're going to be talking about the children, but then we're going to pull in what that means for us as adults. Because mental health, I'm an advocate for it. And I have someone who is here and who can give us more insight into what that looks like. So I'm going to get out of the way. I'm going to bring to the platform because she is a leader in her community and she does all kinds of things to advocate and to be an activist for this cause of mental health. So without further ado, I present to some and introduce to others, none other than the lady in the form of Miss Jacqueline Smith. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Yay, I'm excited to have you here. I'm excited to have you here. And you know what? Just say hello and tell them a little bit of something about you. I know her resume is very extensive, guys, and she does a whole bunch. Of course, she's a what? AKA, we already know our what. If you're pink and green looking right now, yes, your sister is on the platform, and I'm excited about what she's here on the platform today. Go ahead and say, hey, Jackie, for me.
So, first of all, I want to say thank you. Thank you for trusting me enough to invite me to your platform. I totally appreciate that. And you know, I support you and every single thing that you do all the time, always will. Anytime you call, the answer will always be yes. So, yes, I am a licensed professional counselor. Been doing it for quite some time. This is probably my 10th year in the field, completely just immersing myself in the field. I was in the field partially and then out doing other things as well. And I just finally decided to take the complete dive and just stay into mental health completely, which it is my love. I am currently a licensed therapist. I do work in Phoenix Children's Hospital in the emergency department. I do crisis care for suicide, homicide, ideations or thoughts, or children who just have other mental health issues and they need critical care and mental health stabilization. I also worked outside in the community as a clinical supervisor for a mental health team. And we didn't do as much crisis care. It was more one-on-one therapy. I've done marriage and family therapy, which is my favorite. I've done a marriage workshop, which is also my favorite. I've done children, I've done adults, I've done even some geriatric mental health. So just trying to be well-rounded in the field. So again, just glad to be here.
I love it. I love it. So what you did was allow them to see that it doesn't matter who we're talking about. If you are a human on two legs, you have touched all of us from the youngest to the oldest person that could be viewing us today. So it is something that I'm going to make sure that we are talking about something that really can help everybody, right? Help us right where we are today, not what it looks like, what we think it was, what's going on right now. in the things that we're seeing even today. So look, let's get into it. Let's get into it. One of the first questions that I do want to ask you is what is some common misconceptions around even mental health? Like what's some of the common misconceptions, not just even to mention us as a community. What are some of
Sure.
those that you've seen?
I the number one misconception is you can fix it
Mm,
by yourself.
mm,
You can't. It is, I always use a parable when I meet with parents and patients to say, if you had had a cardiac arrest, you would immediately come here and expect help from a professional. You would never have thought you could fix it. But with
mm.
mental health, we always think we can fix it. It'll get better. You can shake it off. Your family can help you. Your friends can help you, and it just will not happen, especially in more severe and extreme cases. It will not happen.
Yeah, you are correct. And with so many things, when we go down the list of thinking about
Sure.
medical issues, there is a specialist for everything. And we
Everything.
know that when we think about us as a community, we know that it's not talked about, it's not discussed as much as it should be. Now you do
100%.
yeah, it's not discussed as much as it should be, and I'm glad that you're one of the people who is, raising your voice and lifting your voice in the community to again express and to make sure people understand, get the help you need. Get the help
100%.
you need. I'm all about even having the self-talk conversation, but for some and in some cases that is not enough. Some of the
Right.
things that we do. I'm an advocate for writing it down, for journaling, and as ways of expression to express ourselves. But sometimes that is not enough.
Sure.
From time to time, we need to incorporate someone as such as yourself to go deeper. You said one of the things you did say, you said was to take a deeper dive. And that's what happens when you're dealing with a professional such as yourself to then take us into a deeper conversation. Now, when I think about the children, because it is so important in knowing what you do in the emergency room. I can only imagine some of the cases that you run into coming in, because you never know what you're going to get. But in certain cases, then they have to then bring you in to do an assessment. What does that
Sure.
look like when you have a youth to come in and then
Sure.
you're called into the space?
So typically what will happen is we sometimes we get advance notice, sometimes we don't. Sometimes it's so critical that they just literally show up via ambulance. And then there are cases where, they'll walk into the actual hospital lobby, just like you would any other situation. If we have a child that is homicidal, if we have a child that is suicidal, or just severely depressed, or having thoughts and ideations of wanting, and some have full on plans of what they want to do. Obviously, the more severe and critical care will usually be brought in, via ambulance, and it's just right away. We have kids that come into the ER that are in psychosis. They have no idea about their environment. They're completely detached, and the thought is not consistent, and it's kind of all over disorganized thinking and patterns and behaviors. And so immediately I will receive a consult. Once the consult pops in, I typically just go over to where the patient is. If the parents are there, just kind of explaining my role and letting them know that, I will complete an assessment. My assessment will determine if they're discharged or sent for inpatient treatment. Letting them know the boundaries in which I have to operate within, because I am also a mandated reporter. So if anything comes out of that conversation that creates a report, I am obligated to do so. So just kind of setting up so they kind of know what my role is, exactly what I will be doing and what the outcome is. Just really setting good expectations so that they know. Usually I've never had too much pushback on that, because most parents are kind of at their wits' end by the time they even see me anyway.
Mm,
So just a matter of explaining that. I go in and complete the assessment, determine if they're suicidal, homicidal, with a plan, if they have intent, plan, desire, different things. Just kind of with the assessment, there's questions within that kind of give me a lot of data that I need. I make a determination for either discharge with maybe some additional resources, setting up therapy or setting up a psychiatric appointment, or actual sent for inpatient treatment. And if that happens, then we explain that, and now my recommendation is for inpatient treatment, meaning outside stabilization is not going to get us what we need, and it is
Mm.
considered an unsafe discharge. And so once I make that recommendation, either way, then the parent or the patient, is able to kind of go forward with that recommendation, be it discharge or just move forward with the inpatient treatment.
Now, because of what you see on a regular, which is unfortunate, do you
Sure.
see some common issues that are bringing them there? Like if there is a
Oh,
issue, if you do, like what is, yeah, okay, please, what are some of those top things that you see that this is what you're getting? Because we
okay.
want people to be able to even, and then not only that, be able to help and tell us some signs to look out for. So before it even get that far, because I'm all about prevention. This is just all about teen prevention over here. So what are some
Okay.
of the common things that you notice that this is the cause? This is some of the cause.
So, unpopular opinion alert. Um, Social media, cell
Mm,
phone, one
mm,
and two, and in whatever order you want. We have kids as young as 5 all the way up to 17, 18 years old on a platform that some adults can barely manage. And it is so many ways that has caused us to fail our children in many, many areas. Social media, while it can be the greatest tool, it can also be the most dangerous tool.
yeah,
And so we need to really make sure when our children are on it, we're on it with them. We're walking them through, healthy guidelines, healthy boundaries, healthy conversations, appropriate conduct, appropriate behavior. Those are the things that I think need to happen. And unfortunately, it didn't. And I think it's not so much that we got bad parents. It has nothing to do with that. It's just it was an afterthought.
yeah.
We gave them a device. We said, hey, go ahead. Things look good. And then I think it has occurred to us down the road, some years into this social media, worldwide word journey or internet journey, whatever you want to call it. I think we've now seen and are continuing to see what the effects are. We had COVID and we were basically locked down for like 2.5 years. And
Yeah.
we're seeing the impact of our children's social behavior from just 3 years. So imagine the impact that I'm seeing, and anybody in the mental health field is seeing from social media, internet exposure, cell phone access constantly for the last 10 years. And it is something I have never seen before in my career. It is ongoing. It seems that the children are having a very, very difficult time. It impacts their self-esteem directly with a hard punch. Some punches they can't even overcome. Things happen in schools every day. Everything's being recorded. Everything you do is recorded. Children are taking any inappropriate photos. They're sexting at an underage. They're sending it out to other children. We had a child here at a neighboring high school that had a situation very similar to that. Someone sent out inappropriate photos and she killed herself, right? And so we have to be very, very conscious of what our children are doing online. And I cannot say that long and strong enough.
Wow. Yeah, it's needed. So check your kids, and if you have a child that you don't know the passcode, then
There is no phone in my house I can't get into. Not
yeah,
one, not one, not one. And I say that because I've even had parents say, I don't have their password.
yeah,
Well, more than likely, you're paying for the phone.
yeah,
You need
yeah.
the password. It isn't about me looking around and violating privacy. It isn't about that. It is about making sure not so much that my kids are behaving appropriately, that other people are behaving appropriately with my children,
Right,
because
right.
they don't know what we already know. So they
Mhm.
have to learn it. And I don't want them learning it on my watch. So the best thing for us to do is to make sure those platforms are safe, make sure that we're on it, make sure we can key into it, make sure we can see it. Shawanna nailed it, killed it, threw it out the park. You have to know their passwords. They should never own any device that you do not have the ability to get into.
Yeah, no, that is so true. And that's why I immediately said password, because it's usually people that they're they don't have access or have not made it so, because you're correct. If I'm paying, then that grants me the access.
Yes.
That's just for me in my house.
Sure.
That's how we roll over here.
Yeah.
Man,
Sure.
that's so good. That's so good, because it's a lot of times people don't even think about those things. Or if you are busy, if you know life is lifing, and
Yes.
you, whether you're a single parent, right, like I said, or a guardian, you could be a grandparent that's with the kids, and some
Mhm.
things are convenient, but
Yes.
is it something that convenience and for that sake of comfort later going to turn into chaos
Yeah.
and
And we
some form
have
of
to,
crisis? Yeah,
yeah, and we have to look at too the addiction that it's causing. There's a dopamine effect in us being on these phones and these platforms,
talk
right?
about it. That's
So
good,
we
right?
got to know that that triggers our children too. That's why you got babies fighting you for cell phones and devices who
Yeah,
haven't even understood. It's because they're getting something in that constant, right? And so
yeah,
when we're feeding that, we got to understand that they need to know the boundaries within that scope. And a lot of times, just like Shawanna said, these are conveniences. Like, here, take the phone, play your game, or watch the movie. We're still feeding that. I think I am an advocate of screen time. I've learned from my own daughter, who's now 17, she'll be 18. She was on a normal child platform and porn popped in it. And she was probably, I don't know, 9 or 10 or something like that. Saying that to say, that's why we have to be on it. If
yeah,
we're not, then they're just sitting there watching it, right? Because they don't know what. And so
yeah,
that's why we have to be conscious of that. I believe in screen time. I believe in shutting phones down, checking phones out. They shouldn't be sleeping with phones. They shouldn't be on the phone all day. My daughter's phone is set up where she has X amount of hours a day per platform. Once she's exceeded that, it's no more. And so we have to be conscious of how much that comes in and how much they get to see. And in even when they're on it, how they're conducting themselves too, and what they're seeing, because all of that stuff starts to come in. Then they start feeling, well, maybe I should do that, or maybe I should be like that, or maybe that's that. And if they don't feel like they're matching up, then we hit the self-esteem. Then we start feeling like all these effects, and yet they won't put the device down. So it continues. Then you get kids that come into me in the hospital, been on social media where my friend said this about me. Some kid said that about me. I felt it was best I'm not even here anymore. And they told me just to go kill myself. Like, there are children telling other children to just die. And that is why we got to get a handle on that.
yeah.
We have to get a handle on that.
That that is so true. That's so true, and it's not going away.
Nope.
With all of the things and all of the algorithms and all of the advertisements and all of the things that we know as adults. Stuff just
Yes.
like you said, it is called a pop up for a reason, because
Yeah.
it literally is a pop up. The algorithms, the systems that look at anything that we think about, it even gives suggestions. So it's like, what is our children being given suggestion to look at, to think about?
Yes.
It was
Yeah.
never even on their
At
mind.
all.
And you know,
And
and
that's the
don't get me
thing.
wrong,
Yeah.
we're talking about
It
the
brings that
children.
into them. Sorry, Shawan. I'm sorry.
No, no, I'm just saying, but it makes you think about what's even happening to us as adults. We see pop-ups, we get them.
Yes.
You because of the devices. I mean, I'm grateful for the tool, as you called it. It's a tool, but we
Mhm.
already know with the smart devices, everything that is around us that has any type of microphone, anything, it is listening. So
Yeah.
there is a suggestion. And in some cases, it's a suggested behavior. How about
Mhm.
that? So you know
100.
what? Thinking about that, I know one of the things
Mhm.
that you're an advocate for cognitive behavior approaches. I need you
Oh,
to
yeah.
talk to me a little bit about what that, when I think about
Sure.
that cognitive behavior approach, what that means, right? In case someone doesn't know, and then
Sure.
give us some things to think about, some tools, something around that. What's that about?
So, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, my jam, my favorite. And I think the reason I resonate with it so well as a clinician is because it is so basic logic to me that I can, convey that over to a patient, a client, any day of the week. So if you, for example, if you have a person that's just always angry, always just in a bad mood. Every time someone says to them, they're just snapping. I don't care what people say about me, blah, blah. So now I'm saying, okay, well, talk to me about where this comes from.
Yeah.
So if they say, well, I don't know, I'm just like that, I don't want nobody to, okay, well, we got to go diving deeper because we need to understand why you're saying that. So now I understand with their thought process, well, I don't want people talking to me like that. Okay, well, that sounds logical to layman ears, right? But in my ears, I'm like, yeah, but why do you feel like people are talking to you that way? So now I need to get into the thought behind the behavior. Once I identify the thought behind the behavior, then we can change the thought, ultimately changing the behavior. So if I find out, well, I was bullied for 3 years when I was in elementary school, and so now I got an idea of like, I'm just gonna get everybody before they get me. Boom, now we got it, right? Now we know where we are. So let's change that thought process. No one's after you. You're no longer being bullied, no longer to stay in crisis mode. You can now go to thriving, right? Those are different sets of skills. You don't use them interchangeably either. But a lot of times, because we've not healed properly, we are still using survival skills, although we're thriving, right? So we have to be able to change those two things out. But a lot of times we keep those tools because they've worked for us for so long and we're still using them. And then you get people that are healthy around you like, hey, like, did I do something? No, they're still using the wrong skills, right? And so you have to heal to know when to change those out. So that's why I love CBT so much, because once we can get to the core, identify how you got here, the thoughts that go behind that, we change the thoughts, we change the behavior. We're well into our healing journey. I promise you.
I love it. I love it. I love it because it is, and you said talking about the skills and understanding. I mean, you already know I'm a mom, and it's having a conversation with whomever I'm talking to, or just people that you care about and care to communicate with. Even with yourself. Let's talk about you. Remember, because this is you first. It's all about you. And
Yeah.
it's when we go to thinking about some of the stuff that we think about, we really need to, and maybe you can even elaborate on this. When we think about us, so you're watching, you're looking, you're listening. When we think about some of those things and some of those thoughts, because we know we get dozens, hundreds of thoughts throughout the day. At so many minutes, I don't even know. It's so many thoughts that just pop in our head from all over the place. But we
Sure.
have to say, and especially if it's something that you know that is not uplifting or empowering, it's like, where did you? We have to pause. I know for me, I pause and say, where did that come from?
Yeah.
Like, what is that? I'm okay with asking myself some questions, having the uncomfortable conversation with myself first,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
saying, where did this come from? What is making me feel this way? So that I am able to give myself an answer to what that looks like, to see if there is even some more work around that. So let's talk to the mama, the pop, the auntie, the uncle, someone listening to even talk about, let's talk about the thoughts. You were talking about the behavior and getting underneath, let's get into the root of
Yeah.
some of these thoughts, to dig into that. Let's help the viewer today. What does that look like? So talk about some of that thought and what we need to do, some steps to just say, if this is you, you're looking and you're listening, you're saying, I don't even know where this is coming from. If you
Yes.
can help them for a moment.
So the first most immature thing, and I'm saying that to say even an amateur could do it, and I'm going to give basics. The first thing is to identify it, and then just as you said, what does this remind me of? Because then it's going to help you. Hence the reason I was saying that example. Of course, a client I had many moons ago, and it's like, what does this remind you of? So when you behave that way, what does this remind you of? And well, it just gives me the same feeling of when I was bullied. Okay, now we're getting it. So to Shawanna's point, if you get that feeling and you're like, why did I get that thought? And why am I doing that? What does this remind me of? So many moons ago, when I wasn't healthy and I wasn't a clinician, I dated, and I would be dating and I'm just like, stay, right? And then I have to say, hold on, Jackie, why are you behaving that way? And what is your thought behind that? And what does this remind you of? This reminds me of when my mom and my dad left all the time. My mom and my dad worked all the time, and I was with my grandparents quite a bit. That being said, every time somebody walked out of the door, I was just waiting for them to come back. So seeing people leave or go was always an issue for me personally. And I had to identify the thought, identify the behavior, find out why I was still using those survival skills when I was now thriving. And then it allows you to release that and let it go, to know and trust that people will come back. But that was my own healing journey. But I'm saying that to present it as an example that I am no different than any person in the world. I'm just trained and I'm licensed. But just so we can keep those kind of things in mind, like identify, what does this remind me of? Because that is usually where you're going to connect with where those thoughts are coming from. And then you'll be able to kind of move past it and do what you need to do, the work that you need to do to be able to terminate that, eliminate it, if nothing else, minimize it.
Love that. I love that. I love that because I think about us as a community and you being able to even help right now. Like I said, it's all about you here, right? We're self first because it's all about you.
Sure.
And as a community, what can we do to help ourselves while being more available for others? Because I say when we understand that we are a gift and we begin to prioritize ourselves, then others around us benefit from a more healthier self. Uh,
Yes.
in all areas, in all areas. So just because I know you do a lot of extensive work in the community and for us as a people,
Sure.
and to even just help right now, and especially in the season that we're in, because it's for all seasons. And what does that even look like? Because I know some people, it's based off even a certain season, and then they go into this slump. So
Sure.
how can you help, whether it's seasonal, right? Because I know there's age, there could be a season, it could be if we're woman versus a man, there could be hormones, right? It could be all of those things. How can you help us as a community to even know what to look out for? Because some people already know and they're just ignoring. I'm
Oh,
not talking about the people that know, right? And
felt that in my soul.
I'm just, because it's the truth, right? We all about, hey, because if you can't confront it, then you can't fix it. So
Never.
some people actually know and they choose to remain that way. And for some,
Sure.
it's this whole survival. No, I need to be this way so that people can stay away from me, right? Yeah, what I know back in the day, you used to say, I don't know karate, I know crazy. Right, right. I know, right? I just dated myself right there. I know I did. I know I really did right there. How can you help us as a community? I know because this conversation, we know we could talk on and on and on about this conversation,
For sure.
but help us as a community before we get out of here. I need you to look right at the person that could be looking and talk right to them. Help us. Help us. Yeah.
So, as a community, we have to check into our mental health, even if we don't want to. We have to acknowledge it. Just to Tawana's point, you can't change it if you don't. I think the whole infamous, oh, that's just the way I am. That's the way he is. That's the way she is. That's the way I always been. Well, that's great. But it doesn't mean it's the way you have to continue to be. And understanding and know that it's not just the way you are. We got to find out why you're that way. Acknowledging when your mood changes. Acknowledge it when you have, misdirected anger, or acknowledge when the anger is, outrageous and overshadowing where it shouldn't and needs to be. Understanding when your reaction to certain things is a little bit extreme or emotional. Understanding when you withdraw from doing things that you used to like to do. Understanding when you start isolating. I don't believe in teenagers closing doors. Understanding when you have so many different changes in your behavior yourself. And I'm going to empower every individual. When you see changes in people, friends, family, spouses, acknowledge it, address it, bring it up. Show it up, bring it to the light and say, hey, I noticed this happen. I'm just trying to make sure that you're okay. Sometimes that small word will cause people to just break. I've seen it many times in session over and over again. I sit down and I say, hey, tell me what's going on. Like, I noticed some changes. You canceled 2 appointments and now boom, right? Because now somebody's tapping in. Otherwise, they put on the face, send their representative out into the world, and they go to work to be a mom, to be a spouse, they're a sibling or whatever it is. They fix dinner, go to work, drive home, go to the grocery store. They're doing their jams, right? But it's not even being tapped into. And sometimes just somebody stopping and saying, hey, what's going on? Are you okay? And great. If you are, boom, great. They checked it. But if you're not, now they've addressed it and identified it. Another thing in tapping into that, Shawanna, I like to be very clear with children. So this is for parents with children. Children often, because their hearts are so sensitive, they're still learning and growing, they will often say to me, well, I was trying to help my friend. Children cannot help other children. And I don't know how much I can say this. I've had so many kids come to me saying, my friend has been self-harming. My friend is suicidal. My friend wants to kill herself, and I'm just trying to help her. You can't. And parents advocate for that. That's why you need to know who they're friends with, what they're talking about, because you get burdened down. I mean, if you're 10, 12, 14, 16, you can't manage another 14 or 15, 16-year-old child managing those kind of thoughts. So being careful of that too, because their mental health will now be impacted when nothing was wrong. So those are some of the things that we need to look for. I mean, I know I'm speaking, like she said, to the community, African-American community in particular, in general, everyone, but we got to do a better job of acknowledging when our mental health is off and not just keep picking up the pieces and keep going forward. Well, you just got to keep pushing through. Yeah, you do, but you want to push through healthy, right? Well, we just got to keep going. I mean, what else could you do? I mean, what's the options? There's plenty. So we got to know that, and we have to acknowledge that there is help available, and you don't have to do it alone. You don't.
We so appreciate you for stopping by. You first. Look, I told you we had somebody special in the building today, coming into the studio with us today. I'm so excited. I appreciate you so much, Jacqueline Smith, for stopping by. You already know, so y'all need to just get used to seeing her face, because I need you to know that it is about you, and it does. It starts with our mind. Everything starts in our mind, and it flows. And from there, I mean, we want us all to be better, all of us to be thriving. So I thank you again for being my special guest on You First today. Y'all already know y'all going to see her back. Y'all going to see her back. This is not her first time, and it will not definitely be her last. So thank you for joining me today. Don't you go nowhere. Thank you, Jackie. Don't go nowhere. You stay, hang around for a minute. All right, guys.
Okay, thank you.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode of You First. It is about you understanding and calling a thing a thing. Call it what it is, because that's one of the first steps to taking back your power. That's right. Take your power back. Call it what it is. Stop choosing to turn and look a different way, because we're supposed to be not just surviving, but thriving. We're supposed to be thriving. You want to, as she said, right, show up as your true, authentic representative of yourself. Don't just, put on the makeup, put on the mask, but you want the real you to shine through and shine beautifully while you're doing it, right? We want you to glow up, show up, being yourself, being seen, being heard, and living your life like it's golden, living your life for the best and the betterment. Again, I'm Shawanna Kennedy. I appreciate you so much. Make sure you are following me on all social media platforms. And do, sir, go ahead and like, follow, and share. Tell someone about You First, because it is about you. This is a place that is safe for you. I will see you again on another episode. Bye for now. This episode is brought to you by Kennedy Media, your ultimate partner in content creation, video recording, and digital marketing. Be seen, be heard, and increase visibility in your business. Contact us today at KennedyMediaLLC.com, KennedyMediaLLC.com, and unlock your brand's full potential.